All right, welcome everyone to the webinar. I think we're ready to get started. I'll be your host. My name is Mike Williams. I'm the VP of Marketing here at RingPartner, and we're broadcasting today from beautiful Victoria, BC in Canada, and it's actually a pretty nice day outside. No current rain yet. John and I are in a little private office here because we're currently expanding our office, so we've got some painting and renovations going on. We're nice and cozy in a nice small room together here. But really excited to bring you our topic today on PPV and pop traffic for pay-per-call campaigns. And just a little bit about RingPartner. We are the pay-per-call marketplace where advertisers and publishers can buy and sell phone calls. We have a number of different campaigns, and we work with different advertisers and publishers driving a number of different traffic sources, and our goal is just to monetize your traffic with calls as best as possible. A little bit about John. John is a media buyer here with RingPartner for the last about 6 months, managing search campaigns, PPV, display, you name it, he's tried it. He's run a pay-per-call campaign for it. And John, before he was a media buyer, was also a distribution manager, so some of you may recognize his name and be familiar with him and had chats with him or met him at a recent show. So really excited about this topic. I think you guys are really going to like this. It's a little bit different. It's outside of the usual search, mobile search, AdWords talk. It's something a little different, another traffic source that you can explore and find ways to monetize your traffic with calls. Just so you know, we are recording this webinar and it will be available on our YouTube channel shortly after the webinar has ended, likely sometime tomorrow. We'll try to email that out to you with a link. If not, just feel free to email us at contact@ringpartner.com to find out. And Q&A, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, but please feel free to shoot us a question in the little questions bar there, and I'll try to answer it, or I'll interrupt John and we'll have a chance to answer that question live so that we can have a bit of a back and forth discussion and answer those questions in real time. So like I said, I'm really excited about this, looking forward to getting it going. I'll pass things over to John and we'll get right into it.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, if you have any questions as I'm talking, because a lot of this will be kind of just touch points, if you want a little bit more detail, feel free to ask in real time or, send a note, at the end of the Q&A session, or even just send us an email if you have any additional questions. We'd love to answer them. Thanks for the intro, Mike. I appreciate it. And yeah, looking through the list of people attending, quite a few people I've chatted with in the past or worked with. And one thing I always tried to do as a distribution manager was come up with, unique ideas to test outside of search, outside of the traditional stuff. I mean, mobile search and search in general is a huge part of our business, but we do know that there are great traffic sources out there outside of that. And, that's one of the things as a media buyer I've tried to dive into and figure out. Another thing that I love to do is to share any successes that I might be able to find, at least to some level, with the rest of the people on the network, because at the end of the day, that's our business. That's what we're geared around. And if we can find things that we can do to help our partners that run traffic for us, that's what we want to do. So yeah, I'm really excited to get started, and I'll go over, as I said, some touch points, things in a bit more detail. But if you do want more detail on any of the topics I'm covering, just send a little message through the chat, and we'll try to get to it. So what is PPV, or often called CPV marketing? Pay-per-view or cost per view, that's what they stand for, is buying display traffic on a pay per impression basis. So say you're buying traditional display, you might be buying CPM, where you're paying for a certain amount of impressions. You're buying a lump sum of, say, 1,000, or getting 1,000 at a specific rate. With cost per click, you're paying for every click on your ad. With PPV, you're paying for every impression of your ad, every view of your ad that you're displaying. Typically, it's a pop under browser ad, and it's triggered based on the user's internet activity at that time. So that pop under browser ad is where your view would be and where you'd be paying for it. One of the big benefits of PPV and CPV marketing is the traffic is traditionally quite cheap. When you're on AdWords, you might be paying anywhere from $2 to $20 a click. Here, default bids usually start at around 2 cents per impression. So you can find a lot of volume, and you can usually find it for a reasonable price, which is always good in our business. One of the key things is it's disruption marketing. Your goal is to kind of catch them in the act of a behavior that you want to catch them in. Maybe they're shopping for a similar product, or they're researching a similar service, and you want to catch them in that moment and essentially disrupt their activity, but bring them, engage them with what you're doing and what you want them to engage with. So you want them to be looking for walk-in tubs, see your ad, and call for a walk-in tub. And that's the overall goal for the most part. Some of the main traffic sources for PPV are traffic vents, which I would probably say is the best. 50 on red is great as well, and lead impact. Those are typically thought of as the top three. And there are others out there, media traffic. There are a bunch of them out there. These are the three that I most often hear referred to as the top, and from my own personal experience as well, to be some of the better networks. So those are the three, especially if you're new and you're just getting started. I would look at those as your networks to try to get started with. So how it works, basically the user who is going to see these ads have installed a toolbar or other browser extension, potentially through as an add-on with another software they installed, or part of a gaming package they've installed on their browser. And part of having this browser extension or toolbar installed is, that allows ads to be displayed. It's part of obviously the terms of use and everything for that extension that they've added. The ads are typically triggered by a URL that they're visiting within their browser, or a keyword that they've typed in their browser. So you kind of get to target based on either a URL or a keyword that they're going to be looking into. It's basically used to engage people while they're on a related site or looking at related content. There's lots of ways to accomplish this, whether it be through watching a related video on YouTube, or going to a competitor's site, or going to blogs that are about similar information. You kind of got to get creative, but if you can come up with a good list of URLs and keywords that are going to pull in that right user base that you're looking for, then you get to move on to getting calls and conversions, and it's I wouldn't say it's easy to do, but you can get creative and you can find pockets that are usually not as explored as some of the other stuff, and it's really fun to get involved with. People will often use sound or animation on their pages or ads. I've had success with certain things. I added a ringing sound for a phone call. Some verticals it worked well, some verticals it didn't. You really need to split test, and that's kind of a key with PPV marketing. Split testing is very important, whether it just be split testing your call to action on the page, or the images you're using, or sounds. I find more often than not very minimal or no animation and no sound works best, but there's been some verticals where it's been the difference maker for positive stuff as well.
Hey, John, I'll just interrupt you there quickly. Got a couple really relevant questions here. People asking about the source of this traffic, whether it's desktop or mobile. Maybe you can just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is desktop, at least for what I'm referring to. I know there are some mobile networks out there that are doing, PPV style ads. I haven't explored that yet, and something that I do want to explore in the near future. But for now, just talking about desktop, and it's typically an older demographic. A lot of these people have like Windows XP on their computer still, or are using Internet Explorer as a browser.
Yeah, and just on that as well, so the real challenge there becomes getting the consumer from that landing page and actually getting them to pick up a phone, whether it's their landline or their cell phone. And maybe you can just kind of discuss the challenges there and how you overcome that.
Yeah, so you kind of think, oh, they're not on a phone, they're not willing to make a call, and that was my initial thought process. It's really not the case. I mean, a lot of the time, if you are targeting properly, this person is looking for information. They're looking for something related to what you're marketing. and most likely looking to make a call to do it. So getting people to call isn't as difficult as you would think, and especially with that older demographic, or the people who are on Windows XP or using Internet Explorer, they might be a little less computer savvy, and they would like to speak with a real person, to get information. So I'll go over kind of creating the call to action a little bit later in the webinar, but it's important, but not quite as difficult as you would initially think. Yeah, so how kind of PPV and pay-per-call can tie together, or how they do tie together, is, as I said, disruption marketing, catching them in a certain consumer act. Main thing that I find is it works really well with niche verticals. So PPV is, a lot of people are in there buying on weight loss and auto insurance and the really high volume stuff. But when it comes to the niche verticals that we find a lot in pay-per-call, so walk-in tubs, appliance repair, things like that, you're going to have little to no competition. And the more niche that you can get, the better. And yeah, you may have lower volume, but typically the conversion rates from call to conversion are anywhere from 40, but usually upwards of like 80%. These people are engaged. They've chosen to pick up the phone, so they're not as likely to disconnect quickly, and they'll make it through an IVR much easier because as I said, they've committed at this point to making a phone call. You want to have direct response from your ad or your page, and I'll show an example of a pop-up shortly here. And you need to have a clear call to action for that phone number, because you want them to see the ad and make the call. You don't want them to be looking for a link or wanting to do more research. So getting that number right in front of them is very important. And as I mentioned earlier, it's an older demographic, so you kind of want to keep that in mind. Really fancy and up-to-date modern style pages and ads aren't going to convert as well as something a little bit more dumbed down, something a little bit more simple that just gives them what they want. For tracking, and this is a question that we've had a lot, and there was another webinar that we did a while back about how to set up ring pool tracking, but basically for tracking in PPV, you get to find out which keyword or which target URL triggered a certain call and conversion. Obviously, for optimizing the campaign, this is extremely important, and you can use the ring pool feature within Invoca to track this. It works great. I use it on a ton of the campaigns that I've run, and with the lower volume and niche stuff, you don't need a ton of numbers in your ring pool to make it work. So if you need help getting your ring pool set up, there is a webinar on our blog from before. Also feel free to just talk to your distribution manager, one of your contacts here at RingPartner. We can link you up with that so you can kind of get a walkthrough on how to set those up. So as far as the pages and ads that are used, it's kind of an ad banner / landing page. So they're served as usually around an 800 by 600 pixel browser window. Often used as a bridge page to link out to the actual affiliate offer if you're running, say, a CPA campaign, but then also often used as a direct response page. So you're trying to gain the action from the user right from that small browser window. And with pay-per-call, that is traditionally the easiest way to do it. So what you're looking for, I guess, is the elements of a banner. You want to catch their eye, you want to engage them, but you also want to push that action in the same space. Luckily, it's a lot bigger than a banner. You have a lot more room to work with. It's important to create an effective call to action. We all know that. That's the business that we're in. We want to grab the customer's attention, and then we want a direct response from them. The call to action needs to be very prevalent. It needs to be obvious. When they see the page or the ad, the pop-up that you've had displayed, you want them to almost see the call to action first, and then secondary see what it's about. So they see a number, and then almost immediately after they see an image or the headline that's going to catch their attention and let them know what the ad is about. With the pages and the call to action, you want it to look professional. I've tested a lot of different stuff. If you're familiar with PPV, you know that blinking lights and lots of animation and for some verticals that kind of stuff can work. But I find with things like services or things geared towards an older generation, a lot of the stuff that we do in pay-per-call, that stuff just doesn't seem to fly. I recommend testing it and testing lots of different variations, but the more professional, especially for services that you can make your page come across, the better. The more I think likely people are to want to make a call or feel comfortable making that call. For ad copy, it should always support and I put it in quotes here, the call to action, because that's what you're trying to push. So you want it to sell them, but you also want it to steer them towards making the phone call. You can use lines like over the phone consultation, things like that are going to just keep kind of leading back to that phone call as the only option they have. And then urgency. You don't want to lie, and you don't want to get them to call under false pretenses. You don't want to use free when it's not free and things like that. But you want to add urgency. Call for the best deals today. That's a line that it's not misleading. It's not saying anything that's not true, but it's still adding a sense of urgency to that ad, and really helps make those calls happen. I think I got a.
Hey, John, I got a couple of relevant questions here. People asking about the demographic. Are a lot of these users over 50 years old, or is that sort of the range? And do you have any sort of breakdown of whether it's largely males, or are there more females, or is it a mix?
The age groups, I mean, I don't know for sure statistics on it. I would guess that there are quite a few up in those age ranges. I mean, there are younger people as well, everywhere from, kids to teenagers and in their 20s. But I would say a large group of them are probably, 40 and over is probably the range that you'd be looking at. As far as male and females, I think depending on the network, and if you do sign up for one of these networks, maybe ask your rep there because they'll have a bit more info. I know Lead Impact seemed to be a bit more like younger generation and heavily female, whereas I think Traffic Vance is a lot more heavy on the male. It's because their traffic comes more from gaming toolbars. It definitely varies. So, and I think 50 on Red, they have a bit of a mix as well, but that's kind of the type of thing you'd want to ask the network that you're working with. I do think for the most part you are going to get older people engaging, and that's who I would personally try to target when it fits the offer. But yeah, male and female is kind of up and down. I think it depends on the offer, depends on the keywords and targets that you're going after. And then also the network. It's really important, I guess, to stay in touch with them and find out what they have available. So what I've got up here is an example of a legal landing page, and I actually took one that I've run in the past specifically to show you what I have seen work. So this was a just for legal services, legal helpline. Putting that in red, the word helpline, catches their attention right away. Easy ad copy, free consultation, the best attorneys in your area, fast and reliable service. Get legal help today. And then, as you see, the call to action, that phone number is right there. It's one of the first things that they see, that big orange bar. And the arrows pointing to the number, when the page was live, they were actually animated. They were slightly moving, pointing towards the number. It's simple. It's professional. I mean, I tested a lot of pages. This isn't the only one I ran, but this is one that did quite well. And this general layout is something that can be replicated and tried for other verticals. And when I say professional, I mean just clean, simple. Usually a nice image that people can feel related. They can relate to or feel comfortable with. But yeah, it's not extravagant. It's not the nicest page anybody will ever see, but it converted well and it generated calls. So this is just one example of the type of page you could try. I think everybody's going to have their own style, and you definitely want to split test, as I mentioned before. You want to probably try 4 or 5 variations to start, but this will at least give you a starting point when trying to come up with page ideas. So finding targets and keywords, I mean, that's a huge part of PPV marketing. You want to find the people who are going to see these ads and convert. First things you want to look for are related domains. So, domains that relate to maybe direct competitors or blogs or anything that could really associate to what you're trying to market. Same with related keywords. So if you're used to doing keyword research for AdWords, things like that, very similar, just things that they might be searching in their address bar or typing into their address bar that would relate to what you're marketing. Once you have a good list of domains, doing anything you can to expand those. There are a lot of good tools out there. I'll mention a couple a little bit later, but for instance, the way that PPV works is you could be bidding on Facebook.com and then somebody else could be bidding on Facebook.co instead of the full .com, and they'll actually get a huge chunk of that traffic because of it. So there's little ways that you can expand your domains and break them down to get more traffic, and there's kind of ways that you can try to get traffic from other people. It's a little bit of back and forth. And then, you just want to keep in mind high volume versus niche. If you go bid on a super high volume keyword like Netflix versus something that's niche and really relatable, obviously it's going to have a major difference in your performance. The screenshot that I have on the screen here is of a really great URL and keyword tool for PPV called Scrape. And just a quick one, but you type in your keyword and you scrape for other keywords related to that service. Very similar to URLs. You can put in URLs based off of a certain keyword or another URL and start to build that list. And it pulls it based on traffic, the Alexa rank, stuff like that. So this is a list that I got. I just typed in insurance for an example, and it pulls out a ton of great ideas. And this is a smaller list because I was just using the demo account for this, but when you have a full account, you just have so much access to pulling detailed lists for domains to target as well as keywords. For effective bidding, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's quite similar to bidding in any cost per click network, but some suggestions that I would have would be manual bidding. So if you, like most networks, if you let them control your bidding or you have a huge max bid set up, you can spend a lot of money very fast and burn through your budgets quite quickly. So controlling your bids is really important, and it's something that you have to manage daily, but it can save you a lot of money. It could be the difference between breaking even and losing money, so it's a really important thing to keep looking at. Another thing is when you are increasing your bids, do it gradually, because with PPV, and it happens with other networks as well, but you can kind of get over like a hump where you're getting very little traffic, and sometimes it's a 5-cent difference that all of a sudden just starts smoking it, and you're getting a ton of traffic. So if you go and throw in a dollar increase right away, you might just blow your budget right out of the water. You just want to manage it quickly, because as I said, it can be a small change that just blows your traffic up, and you want to be careful with that. I got a little screenshot in here just from Traffic Vance. Just kind of shows the different max bids that I had set for one particular campaign. You'll notice some of these traffic or some of these keywords or URLs that I was using, I can only afford to say bid 50 cents, which is still quite high for PPV, for it to have a good ROI, whereas others, they were targeted enough that I was bidding $3 and still profitable. So every keyword, every target could be anything from 2 cents to $20, and they're going to perform differently. So you don't want to treat them all the same. You don't want to just assume that if 50 cents is working somewhere, you should raise everything up to 50 cents. You really got to treat them like they are different, and they should be managed separately. And then being careful with your max bid, as I mentioned, is important. Another thing that will happen is you're getting traffic at $1, but you set your bid at $3 in case somebody tries to slightly outbid you. Well, what somebody could easily do is come in and throw in a quick max bid of $10, which will bring your bid up to $3. They drop their bid back down. but it takes the networks a little while to process everything. So for the next half an hour or whatever it might be, you're spending $3 instead of $1, and you can quickly burn through a lot of money. So you want to manage your max bid, and you don't want to just set it high to deter other people, because there are ways to get you, there are ways to burn you on your spend, and that's what people will try to do. And that's just part of bidding wars. I mean, you're gonna notice on a keyword somebody jumps in, your traffic drops, your position drops, and it is going to be a battle. And I recommend in those situations, if it's a great keyword for you or a great target, fight for it. I've definitely lost money multiple days in a row just to make sure this person doesn't swoop in and take it over. You kind of have to fight for it, and more often than not, as long as you're willing to do that, they will back off.
Hey, John, just looking at that screen there, you've got a bid that's 0.011. Are you able to bid less than a cent?
I'm not too sure exactly how, because like every network's different. I think 0.01 might be the minimum bid for traffic bans. With lead impact, I believe it's 0.02, and then other networks, they all kind of have their own minimum bid, but they typically go very low. No more than a few cents. I think 50 on red might be a bit higher, but yeah, it varies. You can get a ton of traffic for really cheap if you have something really generic as an offer, or something you're marketing that could appeal to the masses. And then for more targeted stuff, you might be looking at higher click prices. One of the great things, as I mentioned, about pay-per-call is with these offers, they're niche. You're going to get less competition, but the conversion rates are typically quite high. So just because your payout's only $12 and your max bid's $3 doesn't mean you're not going to have a great ROI on that. One of the other things I wanted to go over quickly was just some of the handy PPV tools that I've used. I highly recommend checking these out, and get a free trial if they have one. If not, pay for a month just to test it out. One of them is appexpert.com, and this is through the Stack That Money forum. By the way, if anybody here is not on Stack That Money and can afford the membership, it's a great forum with very, very knowledgeable people posting regularly. So definitely something to check out. But with the App Expert section, or something you can also buy separately, you have access to domain expanders and pop-up previewers and keyword searching and URL searching, and just a ton of great features. It also has tools for things outside of PPV, like search and plenty of fish and other types of traffic. But that's just been a great resource for me, and a great way to find where you should start your campaign, and then a great place to help you expand and scale it, and take it from there. Box of Ads is another amazing tool. It helps you find landing pages and ads. So you can type in a domain and see who is also popping up on that or popping under. Or you can type in keywords and see who else is triggering ads off of that keyword. You can also just type in like the vertical that you're promoting, and get an idea of the other people's, the other competitors' landing pages, just to see what the landscape looks like. You can really hone your skills with knowing what the competitive landscape is for you. The idea is not to steal people's pages, because you're not going to do any better if you're not better. But if you can get some great ideas and turn them into your own, and be better than everybody because of that, I mean, that's really what it's for. And competitive research is just a huge advantage when you are able to do that, when you are able to see and learn from the competition. It's great. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Scrape. So easy and great tool for finding good URLs, as well as finding keywords for PPV marketing. And any one of these three I would recommend, but do some research yourself, hit the forums, find out what other people are using. There may be better tools than what I'm currently using. There may be new tools that I haven't heard about yet, but for getting started, these three will do you great. So that pretty much sums it up. I mean, going over what works for a landing page, what networks I would work with, what kind of keywords and targets, or how you would find those. I mean, those are really the bare bones to PPV marketing. And as I mentioned, it's little things like, a really big call to action for pay-per-call works. Keeping the conversation or the ad copy steering towards calls is important. But people, when they're in that mode, when they're looking for a related service, they want to make a call. They want to learn about that service. So don't be scared, that you're not getting a ton of clicks because you're not looking for clicks. You may at first feel like there's not much action happening until you get that first call and it converts and you see that 80% conversion rate and you see the ROI at the end of the day. I mean, it really can be great. And a lot of these campaigns are easy to set up and very little competition. So, you may only be making 30 to 50 bucks a day in profit off of one of these campaigns. But if you set up 10 of them with little to no competition, you're looking good as far as money is concerned. And there's definitely higher volume opportunities out there. One that I've seen work really well is student loan debt, and that's a big vertical. And then credit repair, auto insurance has worked, although it is quite competitive. But there are definitely higher volume opportunities as well.
Cool. Thanks, John. I think that was really informative, and I'm learning and taking notes as we go here. And we do have a lot of really great questions, but now's a good time to start writing in your questions so that we can get a chance to answer those. If we're unable to, we run out of time to answer some of your questions, feel free to email me at mike@ringpartner.com with that question, and I'll do my best to find some sort of answer for you. So I'll start with a couple that kind of came up as we went on. Can you just talk about PPV verticals that work or ones that really don't work?
Things that I've seen work, things that I've had work for me, appliance repair, walk-in tubs, legal, trying to think of any others, general like contractors, things like that. There's a lot of people who have an appliance break or need to do some remodeling, and they don't know what to do. They don't know who to talk to. They go to the internet. That's what they do. So right there, they're looking for that service. They need that service, and as long as you can get their attention, then hopefully you can get that call.
Cool, awesome. And one thing that kind of question that I had, I know that Traffic Vance is one of the better traffic sources in general for POPs, but I understand that getting started with that, you have to have a referral. Is that correct still?
Yeah, that might be. We've had our account for a long time, so I'm not don't really remember. But if that's the case, maybe get started with another network, Lead Impact or 50 on Red. And as long as you build a good status with them, you can get a referral, hopefully from them for Traffic Vance. Or you may have friends in the industry or meet people on forums that would be willing to refer you as well.
Great. And then we had some questions on the clarification of pop-unders versus pop-ups. These are popping under the browser, correct? The ones that, at least on the traffic sources you're talking about.
Exactly. So they have a new browser window that opens underneath the page they're currently viewing. They'll still see that something has opened, which usually gets their attention. But there used to be a lot of pop-ups where it would actually pop over what they're doing. Obviously, that would be a lot better for conversions and getting attention, but it was also really, really annoying. I mean, we've all probably seen pop-up ads in the past, and having that just pop up over a video you're watching or a website you're trying to look at, it's annoying, and people would get frustrated. So it's a good balance now, where people kind of get to engage with the ad on their own time. It's not just right in their face. And it depends on the type of ad you're running. The pop unders are just a lot less intrusive, and because of that, conversion rates can actually be a lot higher. Then there's some type of ads that popping up right in their face might have been better, but for legality reasons and keeping this kind of traffic going, you got to comply and change and evolve. And that's what the networks have done. And then there are some networks, and I should have mentioned this as well, like 50 on Red, where they open a new tab instead of a separate window. So some networks will open a full page tab on the browser that they're currently using so that they see a tab's opened and they can check it after they're done.
Cool. And we're getting a lot of questions about tracking and how that works. I'm sure if you've run any pay-per-call campaigns and you're running any type of traffic to a landing page and you're using ring pools, you know what it's like to deal with that. Can you talk a little bit about tracking and PPV? Because when you do hit volume, it can be a real challenge. And on that, using volume, the tracking platform, is that necessary? Is it recommended? And if you can just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, when you hit volume, like when you get a lot of impressions coming in on a higher volume vertical, you're going to need a lot of numbers in your ring pool. So I recommend working with your distribution manager to facilitate that. But for the most part, I've been fine with 25 or 50 numbers in even some pretty high volume verticals, so that's worked really well. Tracking is definitely important, and you can basically pass through the keyword or target using ring pools on your landing page into Invoca, where you can display it within your own reporting. Or you can also use a third-party traffic tracking platform like Volume, Prosper, or CPV Lab, or one of the many out there. I personally like Volume, but everybody kind of has their own preference. And it's not necessary, but if you like to have everything in one place, some people aren't comfortable having the network's reporting showing, because I mean, it wouldn't show to anybody outside of the network, outside of us, but having those targets displayed within their account or anything like that within the reporting. They want to keep it all to themselves. We're not in the business of taking people's information, but I personally understand the want to keep things close to your chest sometimes. So volume will allow you to do that, where instead of passing through the keyword directly to Invoca's reporting, you're passing it to volume, and then volume is passing the reporting a unique click ID, which then will associate back to the keyword. So you have all of your tracking still, it's just in a third-party area that only you have access to. So great tool, something I use a lot, but not everybody needs it. And if you don't want to spend the $100-something a month for it, you can accomplish the same thing by just posting directly into the Invoca reporting.
Yeah, and I think if people want to know more about how to set that tracking up, we have another webinar on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/RingPartner, where you can check out ring pools specifically, and it'll do a real deep dive into how all that works and how you can set that up. And if you have any questions about that, definitely ask your distribution manager here at RingPartner to help you set that up, and we can always get on a call and help you through that process to make sure you're tracking as much as possible.
Yeah, and we might also do a new one for 2016. The end of the year is coming up pretty quick here. There have been some minor changes. There's also a couple different ways of setting up ring pools that we didn't cover last time. So, we might do something along those lines in the next few months.
Cool. So we also had some questions about day parting, because a lot of pay-per-call campaigns only run 9 to 5 Eastern, or a different set of time. Not a lot of them are 24/7. How do you manage that day parting, and are there ways to monetize that traffic in off hours?
Well, most networks, at least the ones that I've worked with, do allow you to set hours. So that part is obviously important. Traffic Bands does for sure. And for day parting sake, that's something that you want to have. We try to make things have the best hours as possible when it comes to the offers here. We love 24/7 when we can get it, but it's not always the case. People will engage with these pops, an hour or two later, or even a day later, and it's just part of it, unfortunately. So if the ad gets triggered on a Friday, but they don't actually notice it until Saturday, but they still want to call, which does happen. And the campaign's not open on Saturday. There's not a ton that we can do other than, if you find that being an issue, talk to your distribution manager, and we'll see what we can do about extending hours or things like that. It's not a huge occurrence. It's not something that's really gonna make a big difference, but getting one conversion that you should have got that you didn't always sucks. And if we can find a way to help you make sure you're getting them all, then that's what we'll try to do.
Awesome. We had a question about whether the domain of the actual landing page matters. Do you know if that is shown, or if it has any impact on conversion rates?
It's shown, and I would assume that it has an impact. I try to use something relatable, but I don't think many people notice it, to be honest. I've definitely tested with URLs that were completely unrelated. Another thing that a lot of people do, and it's a great idea, is to come up with a very generic URL and then maybe use a subdomain or something like that. So, daily deals or something along those lines, or best services, something really simple that can apply to a bunch of different campaigns through subdomains or different folders on your server. But I don't think it has the biggest impact. It definitely doesn't affect anything like a quality score would on Google. It doesn't have anything to do with that. So, it's one of those things where feel free to test, but setting up a generic domain is a good idea, especially so you don't want to waste $7 a campaign.
Awesome. Another question and kind of related to that is on frequency capping. Do you set up a frequency cap, or is there a limit of how many pops users will actually see in a day from any given traffic source?
Yeah, so the traffic sources will usually have that available as a setting. So I'll start with a longer frequency cap, but you can set it so people can see it multiple times in the same day. And that's a good way to try to scale, and you can test it and test different things. But, I recommend having, maximum, they see that, once a day. I've definitely started lower, maybe once a week just to test certain things. And I've also bumped it up to, multiple times a day if it's vertical that's just really doing well and I'm trying to scale it up.
Okay. So we had a question about bot traffic, and if that's a problem, and how do you kind of defend against that if it is a real problem?
It's not something I've faced too much, but I'm sure it happens. And unfortunately, I don't know the best ways to face it other than, you're finding a target or a keyword that is just, blowing through budget and not really getting enough conversions. I mean, even if it's getting some, if a bot is hitting you there's not a lot that you can do about it in the long run. I think it can be a bit more of an issue on kind of more traditional pop networks where you're bidding on placements rather than just on keywords and targets. But either way, it's going to happen. It's going to be part of it. At the end of the day, if the ROI makes sense, then great. If not, you got to kind of cut it and move on to something different.
Great. This is more of a comment rather than a question, but another attendee mentioned ppvtools.com. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if you are, but might be something worth checking out to find some other angles and ways to promote PPV.
Yeah, no, that's great. As well, I also forgot to mention one of the other great forums out there with a lot of helpful people posting regularly is afplaybook.com. So another one to check out, and they're pretty heavy into PPV over there, so there should be some good resources and people to chat with to help you get things off the ground.
Great. And another comment was feedback on traffic bans. You don't need a referral anymore, but you do need to start with a deposit of $1,000. So you have to be prepared for that $1,000 commitment, which really is probably a good amount to test with.
Yeah.
So if you don't have $1,000 to spend, then you may not be ready to really give this a good test.
Yeah, and I know that if you ask them, like if it's just not working out for you, they typically will refund you the difference. They're nice over there, but you probably shouldn't be getting involved with it if you're not going to be willing to spend at least $1,000 over some time. I would recommend spending anywhere from $100 to $2 per, or $100 to $200 per campaign to test with. If I spend $100 and I make 20 back, that lets me know that there is a lot of work to be done, but lets me know that conversions are possible. So that's a great starting point, and I would probably budget $100 to $200 per campaign as just an initial testing budget to see if it's worth pursuing.
Great. Can you had questions about landing pages, how to create them or where to create them, and if you can share what you currently use for creating landing pages?
Yeah, I use Unbounce, just unbounce.com. Check it out. They got a free trial available, really great service. And it's pretty much point and click landing page creation. It's very simple and easy to use. You don't need any coding skills, nothing like that. So it's something that I recommend, especially for people who are new to doing any sort of landing page design. There are other services out there. I've heard some people have tried Wix and things like that. I'm much more happy with Unbounce and the speed that they can serve the landing pages and the overall service and the overall product really. If you're able to code, then great. Whipping up a quick HTML page is quite simple for a lot of people, and great thing to do. One of the more important things when you're getting into PPV, now it's not relevant for a lot of the niche stuff, but if you're getting into some really high volume traffic, where you're doing 300 to 500,000 impressions a day, you may want to look at better hosting, using a dedicated server, things like that, just to make sure your pages are keeping up with your users that are getting these pops.
Great. Another question specific to test campaigns or setting up your first campaigns, and how you kind of go about setting that budget and the bids as you begin a campaign and start to test things out.
Yeah, so I usually set my budget at about $20 a day. Depending on how much I feel like spending, but $20 a day is a good place to start. The first day or two, you might realize that one or two keywords or targets ate the whole budget up, and then you pause those and move on. If you can watch it throughout the day even better, and adjust your bids accordingly to make sure the traffic's getting spread out fairly evenly. Once you've uploaded or added your keywords and targets, there's usually a status bar that'll show roughly, the type of amount of volume that keyword or target will have. It'll show you your estimated position or average position after you do get some impressions on it. And then it'll also kind of let you know, based on your bid, the likelihood you are to get traffic. It'll say high, medium, or low. At least with traffic bands, they do that a lot. So you kind of have to start things, and I usually start things quite small, even minimum bids, but pretty quickly you kind of see, okay, I'm not getting any traffic here, and you start to increase things slowly.
Great. We had a kind of a repeat question here about the best vertical to start with. If you could just kind of run through that list quickly again.
Yeah, it's really going to be dependent on how comfortable you are with the vertical, what you know about it. Obviously, that's going to be helpful. The types of verticals that I've had success with are services, so appliance repair, contractors, things like that. Things that can target an older demographic is good as well, walk-in tubs. Some financial offers have done well. Legal had done quite well for me for a long time. And then some of the more high volume or high payout stuff can be great. Student loan debt is one that has quite a bit of volume, and it really does apply to a lot of people, so it's fairly broad. Tax debt has done well. It really just depends on, can you find related URLs or keywords for it, and then testing it. I mean, there's going to be traffic for pretty much everything. It's just a matter of finding it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good, you can look at things in both ways. You can look at the campaigns and how to get traffic, but you can also look for the traffic and how to monetize with that. And sometimes that may mean you find a pay-per-call campaign, and it may mean you find something else. But if you want to get into PPV, it's a good way to go and seek out traffic and then figure out how to monetize.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic available and very cheap traffic, that's not being monetized very well. And if you can find those pockets that are cheap but you can monetize them, then you're definitely winning.
Great. One thing that was probably noticeably absent from the webinar today was talking about tech support. At RingPartner, we did not do any tech support. It's just a big compliance nightmare, and we found that it just didn't work for us, and it wasn't a vertical that we wanted to be in. So that's why we don't have tech support offers. That's why we didn't talk about tech support, but we do still see a big opportunity in PPV with other traffic and other types of campaigns. But maybe, John, you can just kind of touch on compliance and how to keep your accounts in good standing and make sure your landing pages get approved by both the network and the traffic network, like Traffic Vance or 50 on Red or something like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So compliance is obviously big with any traffic source that you're working with, at least for the most part. Most of the top PPV networks now won't really let people run tech support, or people are cloaking to get it to work and they're losing their accounts. Not always the case, but definitely a gray area for most of them. One of the good things about more traditional pay-per-call offers is they're clean, they're services that people need or want. So they already look good in the eyes of the networks. Keeping the page simple, no obvious misrepresentations, no lies, no nudity, the basics that you would expect for any network. You want to follow general best practices. And then other than that, making sure that there's no dead links on the page, little things. I've done that a couple times where I get a page declined because I had a button on there for the phone number, but since it's a desktop, it's not actually clickable to go anywhere, and because of that, they declined the page, and I just had to go in there and fix it. And a lot of the time, you don't even need to have a link, you don't need to have a button, you can just have the phone number, and that'll convert better or worse depending, so always test different stuff.
Awesome, great. Well, with that, we will wrap things up. I want to thank John for his time and his insights today. If there's something that you didn't see, but we're hoping to see, like I said, email me at mike@ringpartner.com, and I'll do my best to provide you with an answer, or I'll hit up John and we'll get you an answer for that. Do be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're also on Instagram, but follow us wherever. Check out our blog. And stay tuned for upcoming webinars and other videos and resources that we'll be posting. And we love calls, so feel free to call us anytime. We'll get you in touch with the person you need to speak with. It's 1-888-656-3726. And thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on a webinar sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks guys.